Welcome back to Disciple Dojo. We're continuing our look at the Baal myth or the Baal cycle. If you've missed previous videos in this series, be sure to check those out because we're just following along, reading through the Ugaritic Baal epic. This was written on tablets that were discovered at Ras Shamra in the city of Ugarit. And this gives us background into the surrounding Canaanite beliefs. You know, Baalism was a primary temptation for Israel all throughout their history because it was the dominant religious view in the land. There were other gods, you know, the Moabites had their gods, the Ammonites had their gods, the Philistines had their gods, but the different iterations of Baal, those were the ones that really seemed to vie for Israel's loyalties while they were in the land. So in the first two videos in this series, we looked at how the Baal saga begins. We met the characters that were involved, and we saw that one of Baal's claims to fame was he was the mighty storm god who was able to overcome the chaos sea serpent, Yam. So now we're going to jump right back in, picking up in tablet 4, and Baal's getting a little big for his britches. And he's about to be put in his place by someone who's even more powerful and more destructive than Yam. So if you appreciate this series, one of the ways you can show it is by letting other people know about it, by liking our videos, by commenting, by sharing them with others, and in particular by subscribing. We have so many new subscribers here on the channel. The only way that this ministry grows is through people subscribing. And what really helps us is when you click that notifications icon. That sends a message to YouTube, hey, we like this channel enough to want to see more of its content. The goal of this series, like we've said before, is to provide insight into the background cultural context of the Hebrew Bible. Once we see the world into which God gave the inspired Hebrew scriptures, then we're able to better read and understand the message of those scriptures. And we see things, shades of meaning, echoes, nuances, themes, motifs that we may have missed before because just we're unfamiliar with that ancient culture. So that's the goal of this series. We're not trying to get anybody to worship Baal. We're not trying to get anyone to bow down to any other gods. We're not trying to suggest that Israelite religion was just a copy of other pagan religions. None of that. What we're trying to do is show you this is the world into which the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob appeared. And these are the images that God used to communicate to people in that culture. So let's jump back into the Baal myth and let's see what we find. In the last video, we saw how Baal, he finally, after whining forever, he finally got El to agree to build him his own palace, his own temple atop Mount Zaphon. And then there was the funny scene with him and Kothar where he eventually decides, hey, I need a window put into my temple so that he can send the rain. The rain was what was going to come out of Baal's house, and that's how Canaan gets watered. That's how the ground is fertile. That's why he was so worshipped, because Israel, you know, other than the Jordan, which isn't massive and doesn't cover all of the country, most of the land of Canaan, most of Israelites' kingdom did not have its own natural river supply. And so Israel relied on rain. The rainy seasons, the first and the latter rains, I mean, those were absolutely essential because unlike Egypt, unlike Mesopotamia, they didn't have this huge, regularly flowing natural river system to irrigate their land. They relied on the storms. And that's why Baal was so popular. So after he's got his palace and he's celebrated and Baal is just the #1 rock star god in the Canaanite pantheon, says, mighty Baal speaks up. Enemies of Hadu, and remember Hadu is just Baal's personal name. Why do you shake with fear? Why do you shake with fear, you who take up arms against Dimaranu? Now, Dimaranu don't exactly know what this title means, but apparently this was another title for Baal. Baal looks ahead of where his hand will strike when the cedar shaft dances in his right hand. Since Baal has taken up residence in his house, is there or is there not a king who can establish himself in the land of Baal's dominion? Now, this is a huge verse for understanding the background of what the Hebrew Bible is teaching, because it is the whole Hebrew Bible, but particularly the Exodus and especially the conquest under Joshua, is answering this question. Baal has taken up residence in his house. Well, Yahweh in Leviticus takes up residence in his house, his portable house. And Yahweh and his house are going to travel right into the heart of Baal's country. And so Yahweh is going to be the one who can establish himself in the land of Baal's dominion. This is going to be a battle theme throughout the history of Israel's existence in the land. And then Baal, puffing himself up, says, why don't I send a courier to Mot, son of El, a messenger to the beloved warrior of El? Now, Mot, he was mentioned in the last video, but we're going to meet him now. Mot is the god of death, the god of the underworld. Mot is literally the Hebrew word mot, or mut is the Hebrew word for death or dead. And so now Baal is like feeling he's pretty invincible. He's got his palace. He's defeated the chaos serpent. So he's going to actually pick a fight with Mot. For Mot is always proclaiming, the beloved one of El is always claiming, I am the only one who rules over the gods, who fattens gods and men, who satiates the hordes of the earth. So this is Baal saying what Mot claims about himself. Death seems to be the one who rules over the gods. Now, we've seen the gods have already claimed that Baal is going to be the one who they want to worship. He's going to be the head honcho. So now Baal is sort of saying, well, if I'm really going to be the main guy here, then we got to do something about Mot, because he's saying he's the one who's in control of everything. Death is the one who is unbeatable. So Baal calls his messengers, and he sends Gupanu wa Ugaru. Whether this is one or two, we looked at that in the previous video, not exactly sure. But he starts to give them directions, and the tablet cuts off here. He says something about the sea is enveloped in darkness and obscurity of the highest peaks. And then we don't know what else he says, but it picks up. So head off for Mount Targuziza, for Mount Tarumagi, to the two ruined mounds, and this is the word tell. It's like where we get the archaeological concept of a ruined city mound that's built upon a tell, to the two tells that mark the borders of the earth. So whatever these two mountains are, Targuziza, Tarumagi, these were just considered the two mountains that sort of mark the ends of the earth and the entrance into the realm of Mot, the realm of death. And so when you get there, lift up one mountain on your hands, one wooded hill on your palms. Like literally lift the mountain up, because you're going to go down in them. Then go down to the place of seclusion within the earth. Now, this is the realm of Mot. Mot is kept away from anything living. He's the god of death. So go down to Mot's kingdom. And then look at this. You must be counted among those who go down into the earth. This idea of going down into the earth, and particularly if you've read the Psalms, this phrase, counted among those who go down into the earth, this phrase pops up in the Psalms quite a bit. For instance, Psalm 88:4, I am counted among those who go down to the pit. I'm like one without strength. I am set apart with the dead, like the slain who lie in the grave, whom you remember no more, who are cut off from your care. You have put me in the lowest pit, in the darkest depths. This is drawing on regular, widespread cultural stock imagery for people who die. And the psalmist is saying, God, you've made me like one who's dying, who's going down into the pit. We see it in Psalm 143. Answer me quickly, Lord, my spirit fails. Do not hide your face from me, or I will be like those who go down to the pit. So this is the biblical Psalms. They aren't just talking about like a random pit. This is an image for death, for the despairing, the ones who are destitute. And that's what Baal is telling his messengers. You have to do that. You have to go walk the paths of the dead to deliver my message to Mot. Once down there, head for his city, Hamre, for Muku, where his throne is established, for Hohu, the land of his own possession. Now, these terms have resonance with concepts having to do with death, unsurprisingly. Hamre, this is similar to what we see in Psalm 140:10, it says, may burning coals fall on them, may they be thrown into the fire, into miry pits, never to rise. And this, what's translated by the NIV as miry pits, is this Hebrew word, hamoroth. And that's related to this word hamre. So this, however, whatever this means in the Ugaritic context, it has to do with something like down in the pits, down in the realm of the dead. And then for Muku, where his throne is established, this word Muku, very similar to a word found in Ecclesiastes 10:18, says, through laziness the rafters sag, And this is the word muk, or yamik in this case, but it comes from the word muk. So muku, something to do with dilapidation or sagging or decaying. And then hohu is a word having to do with something like an opening or a hole. Not an exact biblical equivalent for this one, but altogether, this is saying Mot's throne is established in the realm of the dead, the land of his possession, his city, Hamre or Hamur, Hamroth, the pit. And then Baal says, be careful, couriers of the gods. Don't get near Mot, son of El, lest he take you as he would a lamb in his mouth, lest you be destroyed as would be a kid in his crushing jaws. And kid meaning a small goat. We're going to come back to this in just a second. The idea of Mot being one who devours people like a lamb in his mouth. The jaws, the crushing jaws of death. These are images that are not just found in Canaanite literature. They're also found in scripture. And then there's this line, we saw it earlier, so it may just be a refrain. A Shapsu luminary of the gods glows hot. The heavens are powerless under the control of Mot, the beloved of El. That was a line that was stuck earlier in a just kind of a bizarre place. So it's possibly a refrain throughout this song. And so the journey, the couriers go on this and using the stock imagery of the journey, 1,000 yards off, 10,000 furlongs. At the feet of Mot, bow and fall, do homage and honor him. So Baal's giving them their instructions. Go, just like all, throughout this epic, the gods have gone on these long journeys to approach one another, to go before them, to bow and do homage. Proper protocol when you're sending envoys to one of your fellow gods. Say to Mot, son of El, repeat to the beloved warrior of El. And then here's what they're to tell him. Message of mighty Baal, word of the mightiest of heroes. I have built my house of silver, my palace of gold. And we saw that all in the last episode. But then the rest of the message has been lost. It breaks off here in the tablets. So he probably, issued some sort of challenge or bragged about his new palace or his power and his new status as sort of the chief among the gods. So now Mot's going to respond. This is tablet 5. Message of Mot, son of El, word of beloved warrior of El. And listen to how Mot describes himself. My throat, and this word throat is nephesh. In Hebrew, the word for soul or life, or you would translate it like in Habakkuk, I translate it as gullet, your throat. My throat is the throat of the lion in the wasteland and the gullet of the snorter in the sea. Now, this translated as snorter, this word nahiru, it's some type of water animal. Don't exactly know what it is. Someone suggested maybe it's like, how a whale, when it blows, it blows out through its blowhole, and that's sort of a snorting sound. It's some sea creature, basically, that swallows things. So that's why some people have said possibly a whale. But it could be something else, maybe a hippo or maybe some large fish. But it's something with a large nephesh, a large gullet, a large throat, and its domain is these abyss, this deep, the waters. It craves the pool as do the wild bulls, craves springs as do the herds of deer. And indeed, my throat consumes heaps of things. Yes, indeed, I eat my double handfuls. My 7 portions are in a bowl, and they mix into my cup a whole river. So Mot is talking about his appetite. Now, why? Why is he, he's like portraying himself as Kobayashi or whoever those competitive eaters are, Joey Chestnut or something. Like, is he just talking about how much he can eat? No. The whole idea is death is insatiable. Death never gets full. Death's throat is always open. Death's maw, death's gullet takes down everything. That's where the might of Mot comes from. And we see this imagery picked up on to describe death throughout the Hebrew Bible. Look at Isaiah 5:14. Therefore, death expands its jaws, opening wide its mouth. Into it will descend their nobles and masses with all their brawlers and revelers. So people will be brought low and everyone humbled, the eyes of the arrogant humbled. So Isaiah 5, talking about the downfall of these mighty people, uses the exact image that's used in the Baal myth about death and its jaws. And this word in Hebrew that's translated as death in the NIV, it's actually this word, Sheol, the realm of the dead, the underworld, which was personified by Mot himself. You can see it in Habakkuk 2:5. It says, indeed, wine betrays him. He is arrogant. This is talking about Babylon, the king of Babylon, and never at rest, because he is as greedy as the grave, and like death is never satisfied. He gathers to himself all the nations and takes captives all the peoples. And in Habakkuk, literally, the NIV translates it because he is as greedy as the grave. But right there, you can see in Hebrew, it says because his nephesh, his gullet, his throat, that's what's greedy, like Sheol. There it is again, the grave. So sometimes our English translations obscure these connections, and that's why I'm pointing it out. That's why I have the Hebrew on the screen here, got a popular translation here, and then we're looking at the Baal text over here. I want you to see these connections because it's fascinating. And this idea, again, of death consuming everything and people being like a lamb or like a small goat in its jaws. You see this in Psalm 49, talking about those who trust in themselves rather than God. They are like sheep and are destined to die. Death will be their shepherd, but the upright will prevail over them in the morning. Their forms will decay in Sheol, far from their princely mansions. But God will redeem me from the realm of Sheol. He will surely take me to himself. So understanding the imagery of death and how it was seen as a devourer and how it was seen as like a lion in the wasteland, this predatory beast, that will bring vividness to the Psalms and the prophets when you read them, and you see things like death described as a beast, or judgment of God described as a lion, or people being made to wander in the wasteland. I mean, it's drawing from imagery in the ancient world that was ubiquitous. And there's a nod here, Mot sort of egging Baal on at the end. He says, and my 7 portions are in a bowl, and they mix into my cup a whole river. And this is the word Naharu, which is, Baal has just defeated ruler Naharu, Yam, the sea chaos serpent. And so this is sort of Mot being like, yeah, they mix into my cup whole rivers. In other words, I can gulp that down in one shot. So Mot is not impressed at all with Baal's victory over Yam. So then Mot goes on to say, so invite me, Baal, along with my brothers. Have me over, Hadu, along with my kin, and eat bread with my brothers, drink wine with my kin. Have you forgotten, Baal, that I can pierce you through? Then there's a break in the line. Then there's a colophon at the end of this tablet that says who the actual scribe was. This guy, Ilimilku, some type of official of Nikmadu, king of Ugarit. So it's just like the scribe signing his name on the end of the tablet. So then possibly this is Mot continuing to taunt Baal or sending a message back, or possibly this is, I don't know the context of this, but it picks up in this 5th tablet. When you smite Lotan, and this is the counterpart to the biblical Leviathan, when you smite Lotan, the fleeing serpent, finish off the twisting serpent, the close coiling one with 7 heads. And that imagery is also found in, like we saw, Psalm 74, where Israel's describing the Exodus, and God splitting the waters of the sea was crushing the heads of Leviathan. So what Baal was said to do to Yam, the biblical authors say no, but that's what Yahweh and Yahweh alone does to all of his enemies, including death itself. So then it goes on to say, the heavens wither and go slack like the folds of your tunic. Then I with groans am devoured, like a piece of dung I die. So you must, for your part, descend into the throat of Mot, son of El, into the watery depths of the beloved warrior of El. Now, again, we don't know exactly when this is happening. Is this describing like an omen or a word that somebody is giving to Baal of what's going to happen to him? We don't know. But I would just want to point your attention to this. Descending into the throat of Mot, that's going down into Sheol, that's the image for dying, is paralleled with into the watery depths. And this is related to that word that was translated as Hamre, with the city of Mot. But there's a cool parallel in a number of the Psalms, but also in Jonah. When Jonah's in the belly of the fish and he thinks he's going to die, he prays this prayer to God. And he says, in my distress, I called to Yahweh and he answered me. From deep in the realm of the dead, and that's the word Sheol, I called for help and you listened to my cry. You hurled me into the depths, into the very heart of the seas. Currents swirled about me. All your waves and breakers swept over me. 2:5, the engulfing waters threatened me. The deep, Tehom, that's the word that's translated the deep, the abyss. The Tehom surrounded me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. To the roots of the mountains I sank down. The earth beneath me barred me in forever. Jonah is using stock imagery from the ancient world that was very familiar to the Canaanites as well, to talk about dying being the same as going down into the depths, down into the Tehom, the abyss, the waters of death, to the roots of the mountain. That is what it meant to die. But that wasn't what God had in store for Jonah. And Jonah says, but you, Yahweh, my God, brought my life up from the pit. So again, knowing the Canaanite background, the ancient Near East view of Mot, of the realm of the dead, it just, to me, it brings to life all of these poetic and prophetic images that we find throughout the Hebrew Bible. It just gives a lot more vividness. So then Mot's message gets delivered to Baal. The gods head off to the heights of Zaphon, and they report what he says, and just what Mot had told them to say. His throat, like the throat of a lion in the wasteland, like the gullet of the snorter. I think this is probably whale or something like that, but who knows? In the sea, Mot's throat consumes heaps of things. I eat by double handfuls, 7 portions in a bowl. They mix into my cup a whole river. So here's the taunt again. Invite me, Baal, along with my brothers. Have me over, Hadu, along with my kin. Have you forgotten, Baal, that I can pierce you through? When you smite Lothon, the fleeing serpent, and then he alludes to the battle that had made Baal famous, beating the sea serpent Yam, Baal's gonna be devoured with groans, like a piece of dung. I die. So I suggest, and I'm not certain on this because I'm not an Ugaritic scholar, but to me, the reading that makes sense is this is Mot mocking Baal, saying what Baal is going to say after this massive victory that he thinks he's so high and mighty over, saying he's nothing but a piece of crap, basically, and he's going to die. And so then he finishes off, so you must, for your part, descend the throat of Mot, son of El, into the watery depths of the beloved warrior of El. And then tablet breaks off here. So now Baal reflects on this threat. Baal's a little shaken. He's a little taken aback. It says he puts one lip to the earth, the other lip to the heavens. His tongue to the stars. Now there's a possible parallel to this in the Psalms. When in Psalm 73, when it's talking about people who scoff and speak with malice, with arrogance, they threaten oppression. It says their mouths lay claim to heaven, their tongues take possession of the earth. But really in Hebrew, that's NIV kind of filling out the translation. Really in Hebrew, though, it says in heaven, their mouths and their tongues go on the earth. So the only reason I point that out is because this is sort of an enigmatic. It's a verse that, we're like, what exactly does this mean? Well, possibly it's a figure of speech similar to what's going on in this Baal epic, talking about someone who is arrogant or boastful or speaking over the earth. I mean, it's not ironclad. I'm not saying that's for sure what's going on in Psalm 73, but it's just an interesting parallel from a very similar language in that part of the world. But Baal then, as mighty and arrogant as he is, he reflects, Baal will enter his insides, will go down his mouth like a roasted olive, like the produce of the earth and the fruit of its trees. Mighty Baal will fear him. Cloud Rider will be frightened of him. Baal's actually scared. He's come up against his match. So Baal sends a message back to Mot. Go say to Mot, son of El, repeat to the beloved warrior of El, message of mighty Baal, word of the mightiest of heroes. Salutations, Mot, son of El, your servant am I, and forever will be. And that's his message. Like, my bad. I'm on your side. We're good. So he says, be off and do not tarry, O God. So he sends his messengers. So they head off towards Mot, son of El, to his city Hamre, to Muku, where his throne is established, to Ho, the land of his own possession. They go down to the realm of the dead. They raise their voices and say aloud, message of mighty Baal, word of the mightiest of heroes, salutations, Mot, son of El, your servant am I, and forever will be. Mot's reaction, this brings joy to Mot, son of El. He raises his voice and cries out, Baal will indeed invite me along with my brothers. Hadu will have me over along with my kinsmen. So maybe there's going to be a peace ceremony. Maybe they're going to get together and reconcile at this banquet. So then there's a lot of broken lines here. And, they start making preparations for this feast and for the banquet. So Baal, I guess, from what we can tell, there's, like 30 something lines missing here. But at some point, Baal starts to get scared. Like this banquet, this getting together with Mot, the god of death, may not be this joyous occasion. Mot may have ulterior purposes, and Baal's bragging, Baal's mouth may have written a check that his body's going to not be able to cash. And so this possibly is Mot talking, I will put him down amongst the gods of the underworld. As for you, take your clouds, your wind, your watering devices, your rain. This is what we saw in the last video. This is Baal's implements. This is how he sends the storms and produces fertility. As you take all that, with you, your 7 lads, your 8 officers, and then these young women, Pidre, daughter of Aru, with you, Tale, daughter of Rabu, head off for the mountains of my covert, my hideout. Lift up one mountain on your hands, one wooded hill on your palms. then go down into the place of seclusion within the earth. And so Mot is basically saying, come on, come into my domain. You must be counted among those who go down into the earth, and the gods will know that you are dead. So this is the challenge that Mot is giving to Baal, or the warning, possibly a prophecy or just a statement of fact. Like, hey, Baal, you think you're high and mighty. I'm going to kill you. And when you die, everybody may have thought that you're a god, but you're going to be just like those who go down into the earth. No one beats death. Now, there may be a parallel. I don't want to press this too hard, but there's resonances, I would say, in Psalm 82:6. The gods are being spoken of. Now, people have argued that these gods are supernatural beings. Some have argued that these are patron gods of the countries. I think that's the route that Michael Heiser took. Others have said, no, these gods are human rulers, human kings who portrayed themselves as divine, who portrayed themselves as sons of gods. But these are ancient tyrant warlords, rulers who wanted their people, like the kings of Babylon, the king of Tyre, all of these ancient kings wanted their people to believe that they were divine. So whether Psalm 82 is talking to real gods or whether it's talking to would-be gods, the message it says, the gods know nothing. They understand nothing. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said, you are gods. You are all sons of the Most High. But you will die like mere mortals. You will fall like every other ruler. And this you will die, it's this Hebrew word, tamutun, mot, the word for death. You will die. So this is possibly, I'm not saying that the psalmist is pulling from the Baal myth to make this taunt, but the idea of a would-be god or someone worshipped as a god actually dying, falling, going down into the earth, being like one who goes down into the pit, it has, like I said, it has resonance in the world of Canaanite paganism. So we'll pick it back up in the next video. You thought things were weird before, things get really weird in this next section. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't caught the first couple of sessions in this series, go back and check those out in the playlist. And if you appreciate this and you like this type of teaching and you want to see more of it, one of the best ways you can help us continue to do it is by liking, subscribing, and when you do, enabling notifications. That really does help this YouTube-based ministry grow. And we're so grateful for all of you who have helped support Disciple Dojo. That's all for now. We'll be back with more from the Baal myth. In the meantime, as always, keep training.